Well, thank you for joining us. We are having a sunny October day out here on the West Coast. I hope everyone is having some good fall weather across the country as you join us for this special Siren Dissemination webinar on engaging communities in social care research, learnings from Siren's social care engagement grantees. We have had the pleasure of working with the teams over the last 2 years that you're going to hear about today, and I am so excited that we get a chance to learn from all of them today. Next slide. Um, I have to point out right away our immense gratitude to our funder. Today's webinar, as well as all the work that you're going to hear about today, cross engagement grants, was made possible with the support from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. And then in terms of some logistics for today's webinar, it is being recorded and a link to the presentation will be sent out to all of you who registered and it'll be posted on our website when available. Now, for those of you who are joining us live, we welcome your questions and comments. We love engagement. So please do use that Q&A function for the webinar to ask your questions throughout the hour. We're going to be having a reserved time, the last portion of the hour, to talk about those live, but please put your questions in all along the way so that we can engage with you over that chat and through the Q&A feature. For those of you who are new to SIREN and aren't familiar, SIREN stands for the Social Interventions Research and Evaluation Network. We're a research and dissemination center at the University of California, San Francisco, and our mission is to improve research on social and medical care integration by synthesizing, disseminating research, convening individuals and advisors, and conducting and catalyzing research. And one of the ways that you can learn more about us, besides going to our website, is joining our monthly newsletter. So every month, the newsletter comes out along with a research roundup. You can engage with our evidence and resource library to keep track of all the hot off the press news that is coming out that is more important than ever. And with that background, I'm now going to turn things over to my partner throughout all this work, Yuri Cartier. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon. It's so great to be with you all. So I'm Yuri Cartier. I am a senior research associate with SIREN. And like Danielle said, have been deeply involved in these engagement grants and the projects you're going to hear about today. Just to set the stage, I think this is a pretty friendly crowd. You're probably all pretty convinced of this already, but let's hammer it home that lived experience expertise is critical to social care research. Um, because of the nature of social care research, we aspire to address inequities, but achieving that requires researchers to improve and deepen our partnerships with individuals and communities who are actually impacted by these systems, these social needs, and these interventions. And those who are affected by these issues are the experts of that experience, and they need to play an active role in designing solutions. And we're situating this within a larger context, a larger movement with increasing energy across health research to engage individuals with lived experience across all stages and activities in the research continuum. So Siren's journey with this started back in 2019, our first national research meeting, where we began to explore these questions through a panel of community partnered social care researchers and lived experience experts, really leading to internal discussions about like how can we at Siren, beyond the scope of like an individual research project, begin to engage individuals with lived experience of social needs and social care. very serendipitously, we were put in touch with an organization called Patient Advocate Foundation. And with them, we built a learning community of experts by experience, those with lived ex experience, expertise in social needs and social care. And delighted to see that there are actually several of our advisors, our EXCs, as we call them for short, here with us on the webinar this morning. They've continued to work with us not only on the research projects that we bring to the community, but also as advisors on multiple research projects and on national research meetings that we've had since then. Mo Very deeply in the 2022 National Research Meeting, which was just such an amazing experience that it led to even more conversations on the team about, well, what's stopping people from doing this because it's so influential, so impactful. And, we identified it's not that there isn't the will to do it, but that there really is lack of funding for partnerships that span across research that are in a before, the research grant application is written. Um, there's a lack of infrastructure and mentorship. And so we can't thank Robert Wood Johnson Foundation enough for agreeing with us and supporting us to fund four teams, academic community teams across the country for these $50,000 two-year grants. But it wasn't just us. I want to shout out that instrumental in designing the call for proposals, reviewing the applications, selecting them, and offering coaching and support throughout the grant period were these amazing advisors, blending experts by experience and experts by profession and people who wear both hats and more. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Danielle.
Thank you so much, Yuri. Well, it has been such an enlightening journey in these last couple of years, learning alongside all of the grantee teams as we have our own learnings within the SIREN team as well in this space. And one of the things we just wanted to highlight was that in February of this year, we had the chance to come together in person and have a grantee convening. And what you're seeing here is the visual, a beautiful graphic recorder visual of the learnings from that day-long convening around within social care, the amazing engagement that is occurring, the learnings that are occurring over there on the left, as well as the struggles and the potential solutions that we're seeing for the future as we do continue to see a strong and bright future for community engaged work in this space. And with that, I want to as quickly as possible, get over to our grantees so you can hear from them. Before we do, one last thing is we want to acknowledge that engagement it happens on a continuum. And you may have arrived here today at this webinar because you are already deeply engaged in this type of work, or you may be curious. Everyone is welcome, and everyone likely can find that some of their work falls along the continuum, anything from on the left, from informing, where researchers are sharing information with community, all the way over to the right, where community is leading the decision making, community is leading the work. And so we wanted to just get a quick pulse from you. Make sure everyone has a chance to stretch their fingers this hour just a little bit. And time for a quick poll for you to share with us what's the furthest along this continuum that you would say your work and your engagement falls, whether or not you're a community member who's been advising or been leading work in research, or you're an academic researcher, or you're from a community-based organization or policymaker. Where would you put yourself on this continuum? And we're launching a poll here So you'll see that pop up. Very quick poll of 2 questions. Wonderful. Thank you all for starting to engage with this. We're seeing a range of roles, where for those of you who are seeing these live poll results come in, we have a really a lot of folks in the room who are identifying as researchers or from a community-based organization, as well as individuals who are community member, clinician, policymaker, and funder. And then in terms of where folks are rating on the continuum of their experience with community engagement, we're seeing a lot of folks between a 2 and a 4. So between that consulting space, participate, and initiate. And that's so, but the whole range used. And so thank you all for engaging with that, because that's really, again, all answers welcome. And what we're going to hear about today is also a variety of different teams approaching this engagement work along the continuum, where we're all striving to push further there to the right of that figure.
That was
And
awesome.
with this, I'll hand it back to you, Yuri, to kick us off.
Yeah, so here's what to expect today. We're going to launch into the presentations from our 4 grantees. And then we'll have a Q&A, and we already see that there's a question in the Q&A, so that's awesome, or a series of questions. Please do put them in the Q&A, and we will have time for those after the 4. So we're going to, go back to back on the 4 presentations first. And then we hope you can stay past the top of the hour for some interactive breakout room discussions where you can ask more questions one-on-one with the grantee teams in these kind of areas around forming partnerships, fostering active co-creation spaces, and dissemination and sustainability. There'll be folks from each of the teams in those rooms, as well as our advisors and other interested folks. So without further ado, I want to uh, get us started with the presentations from our advisors. So we're gonna go around the country very quickly, and starting in Boston, then we'll move to the Austin team, then the Atlanta team, and we'll finish up on the West Coast in San Diego. So Isabel, Maggie, and Jennifer, I'm gonna hand it over to you to kick us off. So please introduce yourselves and get us going. Thank you.
Okay, can everyone see my slides?
We can, thank you.
Wonderful. Well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Isabel, and I will be presenting alongside Jennifer Soto. We are going to take the next few minutes to talk about the deep and meaningful connections that grew out of the SIREN Engagement Grant. So our current grantee team has members from the MGH Asylum Clinic, Doctors Matthew Gartland and Altaf Sadi, and members from the Oasis Clinic with Boston Healthcare for the Homeless, Margaret Sullivan and Jennifer Soto. Both clinics share the mission of providing forensic medical and psychologic evaluations to asylum seekers in Massachusetts, as well as wraparound resource navigation services. And since applying for this grant, our team has evolved in structure, which really is a reflection of the process that most of us are accustomed to in the field. It reflects renewal and growth, which is very fitting to talk about during fall season. And we would like to acknowledge the work of many other people who were part of this grant team along the way. And although both Jennifer and myself are no longer working with our respective organizations, we are beyond thrilled to have the opportunity to come here and talk about the work that has been done thanks to this grant. The MGH Asylum Clinic, in partnership with the Boston Immigration Justice Accompaniment Network, or BIJAN, and the Oasis Clinic embraced this project with the goal of fostering initiatives aimed at amplifying the participation and voice of immigrants and forcibly displaced people. At the core of our project was our community advisory board, which we were able to grow and include 5 community members with lived experience. Our CAB convened quarterly, and we had 2 amazing in-person retreats. And we also formed academic delegations to attend the 2024 and 2025 Refugee Health Conference, where members from our team presented about our work. Coming together as a CAB just really highlighted the breadth and diversity of experiences represented by each member. Over time, this community became a valuable network of mutual support, strength, and resource exchange, especially this year as we navigated such a challenging political landscape that often left us feeling tired and dejected. Our in-person retreats were great, and there was something truly special about the moments where we were breaking bread together. And it was in those spaces between our formal agenda where we shared laughter and ideas that we found renewal and just reminded each other of why this work matters. Last December, we hosted Suitcase Stories, which is an event that featured speakers, myself included, who talked about their migration experiences through these beautiful tales of resilience. And in a world where our migration narratives are constantly challenged, telling my story was liberating. And one of the challenges that we faced in hosting this event was making it both accessible to hospital staff and the broader community. However, during this year's CAB retreat, which was bilingual in English and Spanish, something unexpected happened. The meeting
It looks like Isabel is having technical difficulties. It's not you. If folks at home wondering what happened to their sound. So please bear with us just a moment, and we hope that Isabel can come back.
So during we do have MGH did create a listening session for participants, and we did bring an example of a participants listening session. And one of our participants stated, "I've never known there are places like this where you could call and somebody encourages you. But when I found it, it really felt good." It was very, very good because it went a long way to help me. Because sometimes you feel like, oh, things are too hard. But when you talk to somebody, you find out that you've relieved some burden, and those encouraging words help you keep yourself positive and keep yourself going. This quote really speaks to the power of being seen and heard. You can feel the participants' relief in finding a place where someone is listening and offering encouragement, a place that reminds them they're not alone. It's such a simple thing as a conversation, but for them, it became more transformative. You could skip to the next slide.
Oh, I believe you're controlling the slides now.
Oh, yes. In February 2025, 6 of our CAB members joined the SIREN conference in San Diego, which included myself. When I think about the SIREN conference, the first thing that comes to mind is how unreal it felt to be in the SIREN conference in San Diego. It was my very first time at a national academic conference, and honestly, I didn't know what to expect. I remember walking into the big rooms full of researchers, health professionals, and community leaders from all over the country and thinking, wow, I'm really here. At first, it was very overwhelming. So many acronyms, so much research language. But as the session went on, I started to notice this theme. Sorry, let me put you guys smaller. I started to notice this theme that kept coming up again and again, which is the word trust. People were talking about how trust is built in between communities and institutions, between researchers and people they hope to serve, that really stayed with me because trust is something I think about all the time in my own work. How it's not something you just rush into, it's not something fake. It's built slowly throughout honesty, throughout showing up and really listening. Being there, to I felt a proud I felt proud to represent my community, to bring that lived experience into the space where it mattered. I realized that our voices belong there too, right alongside the academics and experts. After one of our conference days, something unexpectedly happened. One afternoon, our group decided to take a little trip to the US Mexico border at San Isidro. I don't think any of us were prepared of how emotional it will be. As I stood there looking across, I felt deep connection to my mother, to her journey of migration, to the sacrifice she made that made me be here today. It hit me hard, and I almost felt her presence beside me. Looking back, I realized that the best part of this experience weren't just things that were planned, weren't just the listening sessions, the notes, the schedules. It was the unplanned moments that stayed with me. The quiet conversations, the laughter, the tears at the border, and especially the networking. There, there were there was way more real beauty that stuck with us in mix of all of us. At, at MGH, the Oasis Clinic, we honor the dedication and hard work of our countless individuals who shape our program. Together, we envision a future where community engagement and academic community partnerships thrive. I wanted to thank you all, Simon, and all the members that I met in the San Diego conference.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, and for your stories and for handling all the technical issues and power outages and solo presenting on the fly with such grace. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. So we're going to turn now to our friends in Austin. So Ebony and Sean, gonna call you up and I'm gonna start your slides.
Thank you. Hello. Today we're going to talk about SIREN and transforming homeless research, that we aim to co-create a social and research agenda for action concerning homelessness. I'm Sean Oliver, a member of the Community Advisory Board and the program director at a local restorative justice organization.
Good morning and good afternoon to some. I am Ebony Oliver, and I am a member of the grantee team and the founder of a local nonprofit here in Austin, Texas. Next slide, please. So, for this project, we created and convened a community advisory board, which we call CAP for short. It was a group of homeless services providers, which means a variety of providers and resources of people with lived experience of homelessness or people who have had both. Our goals were to identify the community-based social care priorities for people experiencing homelessness, and from there, create a research agenda to guide future work towards addressing those priorities. On the left, you can see one of our recruitment flyers, and that flyer just lists many of the requirements that we were looking for when we were recruiting. Next slide, please. So this is our awesome team, which on the left, you would see 5 members. On the left is our grantee team, which previously these are members who have worked together in various capacities within the community. And they all brought relevant, unique experience and knowledge to this program, to this project. Over to the right, you can see the names and roles of the 11 CAP members that brought their own diverse perspectives and shared desires to improve homeless services here in Austin, Texas. Next slide, please.
For a year and a half, the 16 of us met every month and completed design activities and had facilitated group discussions. This truly enabled us to identify pain points, needs, and potential solutions for future research on homelessness. Ultimately, we were able to build a consensus and finalize our priorities. Next slide. Here, you can see the 5 areas for future social care research on homelessness generated by our CAB. Our results expanding the role of peer support specialists to examining how to impact individual level and societal stigma of homelessness. Together, these results lay the foundation for numerous future research studies. Next slide, please.
So through this work, we learned 3 key lessons from doing community engaged research. Be intentional. Building trust takes time, lots of time, and it doesn't happen by accident. From the very beginning, we were intentional about creating a safe and respectful space. After our first meeting, we set group norms and values together. We made sure to revisit them at the start of every meeting to keep us grounded before starting each meeting.
Simplify was second. We realized early on that simple is always better. Initially, we had planned for 2 different CABSs, with each one meeting every month. We realized early on that this schedule was overly complicated and that the 2 groups would benefit more from merging. After vetting this with the groups, we adjusted things so that everyone met every month. This resulted in increased ease, engagement, and productivity. Third, make it personal. No matter how much content we hope to get through in a meeting, we never cut short time for socializing. By always providing time for people to get to know one another on a personal level, everyone in our CAB felt more comfortable participating and sharing. And so by being intentional, simplifying, and making it personal, these are things that we learned. Next slide, please.
As we wrap up, we are in the process of finalizing our research agenda. Once this is completed, we will share it with both the local community and traditional scientific venues. As you know, research can take more and more time when you develop with more and more information. So we are continuing to move forward, but finally, we are actively working on how to sustain our CAB both professionally and personally. Professionally, we are looking for more funding, and personally, the group is interested in staying connected. So we are planning on hosting an end of the year meetup because, again, it's about building that trust and not just professionally, but personally. Next slide, please.
Sean, gonna ask you to unmute for their wrap up on the last slide.
Sorry about that. While we know that this was just a brief snapshot, we hope that this presentation was able to provide some high-level insights from just our work with the community and just socially engaging one another in this research. Thank you so much. And please don't hesitate to reach out at the email just provided. Have a wonderful day, and we thank you for this opportunity.
Great. Thank you both so much, Sean and Ebony, for presenting. And you're getting all the accolades with the reactions and the on Zoom there. We're going to switch over now to our team in Atlanta. So going to ask Kayla and Kate to get us going. And I see the slides are coming up. Thank you so much.
Do you want to move it into presenter view? Sorry. Hello, everyone. I'm Kate Stanhope. I'll start with that from Emory University. I'm here with my colleague, Kayla Adams. We're really excited to share a little bit of this project that we've been working on for over a year. This is a co-led project by the Center for Black Women's Wellness, which is a local organization here in Atlanta, and Emory University, entitled A Community Engaged Approach to Addressing the Social Care Needs of Birthing People in Atlanta. Sorry, Sheila, I think the slides are advancing, but I can also bring them up on mine. Why don't I'll just share? It'll be, oh, perfect. Okay, great. Okay, so everybody here in this virtual room probably agrees that there is a role for clinical care in addressing social needs. And part of that is screening for social needs, identifying and documenting needs that may exist in clinical populations. And there's been a lot of research on this topic, but there's many key gaps. And one of the gaps is that the existing tools are not well suited to pregnant and postpartum people. Pregnancy care is very different than other types of clinical care. People see their providers many times in a short window. And then there's kind of this cliff where they just no longer interact perhaps with that clinic at all after their delivery or postpartum visit. In addition, pregnant people experience evolving health and social needs as their pregnancy progresses, as they welcome a new human, and potentially as employment and other situations change. They also experiencing evolving program eligibility and may be newly eligible for possibly a brief window for support resources where there's a fleeting opportunity to be connected with those resources. And finally, pregnant and postpartum people often have what we call a dyadic focus, which is to say they're not just thinking about themselves, but they're thinking also about the needs of their child. And really that needs to be considered when we're thinking about what should be done about social needs in clinical care. So our project, big picture, our goal was to co-create, taking into account people with lived experience, both as pregnant and postpartum people with social needs and community-based organizations in Atlanta, a social needs screening protocol, which if you scan the QR code on this slide, and it's on a future slide as well, you can access our protocol, which is developed, but probably still in the process of being honed and piloted. And we did this through a series of key informant interviews and a year-long social determinants of health working group, which involved both people with lived experience, clinicians, and representatives of community organizations. Very briefly from our key informant interviews, one of the biggest findings, in addition to really understanding different experiences with linkage to needs, was really the important focus on how it's not just identifying needs and it's not just identifying a resource. Beyond just identifying resources, there's a whole cascade of additional steps that need to take place for somebody to actually match with a resource that may address an ongoing social need. And that's when a resource is present and available and they're eligible for it. And we learned also in our interviews that organizations, and by extension, clinical care settings, can play many different roles in that cascade, from very passive role of providing information only to a very active role of ensuring that resources are available to meet needs, while there are also barriers at every stage of that process.
So to develop and refine the actual screening tool after we were able to get information from our participants, we convened a working group, and it was made up of 8 organizational representatives and 2 of our interview participants who had recently given birth. And so this ensured that both professional and lived experiences were represented throughout the process. And then over the course of 12 months, we held 6 2-hour meetings, with one of those sessions being conducted in person. And so these meetings kind of served as an iterative working session, each one built on the previous, and participants could review the findings, discuss challenges, and co-develop solutions. And so by the end of this process, we had produced a refined draft of the tool, focusing on that order and the flow of our questions, and identifying appropriate screening intervals for our perinatal population. And so this is that QR code kind of appearing here again for that screening tool we developed. And so these working group discussions, we really wanted to focus on making sure that they were structured and collaborative. And so we actually developed a meeting format that balanced that preparation with flexibility. And so participants were given pre-reading materials ahead of time, and it was typically about 1 or 2 short background documents. And this was to help ground everyone in the key concepts and context before we met. And so then began each session with about a 20-minute overview to provide a shared foundation and orient participants to the goals of the meeting. And then we did the small breakout group sessions. And it was based on their domain of interest, for example, maybe housing or childcare or transportation. And then each group was tasked with developing a domain-specific protocol and a corresponding set of guiding questions for that screening tool and referral. And then finally, we reconvened at the end of the meeting for a share out and synthesis session where the groups presented their ideas, discussed the overlaps across the domains, and then identified opportunities to refine the overall screening tool. And so this structure just helped create a more participatory and productive environment. And so developing the screening protocol really underscored the importance of partnership. So people with lived experience were central in grounding the protocol in reality. They really helped us define what a positive screening and referral experience actually looks like, what patients want to happen in the room, and what the impact feels like when those social needs are overlooked. And so clinical perspectives were equally as critical. Providers helped us think through workflow and feasibility, how to integrate screening without disrupting care or adding undue burden on already stretched teams. And then finally, our community organization partners added essential context. So they shared examples of what has worked in their own settings and helped us weigh the trade-offs. For example, balancing efficiency with accessibility for populations that are facing unique barriers like language limitations for refugees navigating Medicaid transport. So together, these voices really created a protocol that's not only evidence-informed, but also grounded in the lived realities of both patients and providers. And so challenges with the partnership, while the core group of members remained engaged throughout the project, we did, of course, experience some natural challenges with participation over time. So for example, involvement among postpartum participants declined, and that was completely understandable given the competing demands of new parenthood and recovery. And similarly, as the year progressed, eventually participation in the broader SDOH working group began to wane as well. And so we also faced limitations with in-person engagement opportunities where virtual collaboration kind of made it harder to build those organic relationships and maintain momentum between meetings. In addition, some partners were just a little less comfortable speaking up in the larger group sessions. And so we found that those small breakout groups and incorporating more structured activities really helped encourage participation. And then finally, a loss of a few key partners at CBWW here also created some gaps in continuity and institutional memory. And so that really underscored how dependent collaborative work can be on individual relationships and just highlighting the importance of forming institutional partnerships rather than one-on-one individual relationships. And then just looking ahead, our next step is to move from development to implementation. And so we plan to pilot the screening tool in clinical settings, beginning with the Center for Black Women's Wellness, and then potentially expanding through our Atlanta Healthy Start partners. And so these pilot sites will allow us to evaluate how the tool functions in the real world setting and then gather feedback from both providers and patients. And then as part of this process, we will focus on understanding the barriers to use and feasibility, whether that's time constraints or digital access or just the sensitivity of certain screening topics. And then we want to identify practical solutions to address them. And then finally, our goal is just to disseminate the tool across the community. So not just within our partner clinics, but also through the broader community networks. That way we can share lessons learned and make the tool adaptable for other groups as well. And so I'll just close out by thanking our partners at UCSF and of course the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, our community collaborators, and then everyone who contributed their time, expertise, and lived experience to our work. So thank you everyone as well for your time and attention today to our presentation.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kayla and Kate. That was excellent. Now I'm going to ask our presenters from San Diego, Mateo and Juan, to join us. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. It's our turn now. My name is Mateo Vanegas. I'm one of the co-leads of this project, and I'm joined with my partner, Juan. To walk you all through our project, just want to give a shout out to our funders. We're very grateful for this opportunity, and I think we've tried to make the most of it, and we have a plan for our ongoing efforts. Let me just switch this to, okay. So our project is entitled San Diego Community Academic Research for Equitable Social Care, SD Cares. So this is our team. You can see us here on the right. Kind of these are some of our members. And one of our, I think this is at the conference here in San Diego earlier this year. And then on the left there, you can see us all in one of our bidirectional learning sessions. Here at the bottom, you can see one of our key things, as I'll get into here in a second, was to create an advisory board. And we were able to really create kind of an intentional advisory board that was geographically and culturally representative. And so these are just the folks that we were able to recruit and who thankfully devoted their time and efforts as part of this project. So you can see here, we wanted to get representation from across the county, the San Diego area, of individuals not only with expertise, as you'll see, but with the lived experiences, as all of our project has mentioned. And then there on the right, you get to see some of our leadership and our key partners, Margot and Catherine, who are the ones who really made this project move forward. Oops. Okay, so the project goals here. We had three. The main was this advisory board, right? Which, again, we really wanted to form a board that would work with us hand in hand across all project activities. And again, as we've been emphasizing throughout all of these, the lived experience was huge. We really wanted individuals who not only were community experts, but who have worked with individuals to either address, assess, or manage individuals in the community, or they themselves with social needs, social risks. So that was key to really making this project a success. And we were able to do that, thankfully, to the leadership of Amanda, as you could see here in this spot here, who was the director of the coalition at the time. Second, these listening sessions, learning sessions were huge. And I think, as we've been hearing on these other projects, right? I mean, this is really the opportunity for us to engage with one another, learn kind of the areas where we needed to really kind of establish these areas of a trust and relationship, really to kind of share these pieces of information, what was missing, what wanted to be known. And on our part, let's say the academic part, there were a lot of areas that I think the community wanted to engage with us. Lastly, one of our project goals is this playbook. We're calling it a social care research playbook, but I think I would say also a community engagement research playbook, right? Where we're really just trying to lay the foundation of what are the key values, practices, and guidelines that we as a group, as a partnership, really want to emphasize, that are important to us, and though that are unique and relevant to our community, right, in San Diego, and a lot of the issues that we experience and we face. So these are the three goals that we put forth as part of this project. So what are we doing? I kind of went over this on this last slide, but we engaged in a bunch of meetings where we really wanted to try and recruit members of this advisory board. And as Juan will touch on in a minute, we were aligning with some of the activities of the coalition, which really helped us to form the board ultimately. But we really wanted to engage in an advisory board that was experiencing a lot of these issues, not only in their own neighborhoods and communities, but who had been doing this for such a long time, right? So they've been doing this community organizing and community engagement. And so they knew not only certain methods and areas and opportunities for us that we've been learning so much. So this board is incredible, as I'm sure some of the other projects also experience. Again, these bidirectional sessions really enabled us to kind of build a rich relationship. And thankfully, hopefully, we'll be able to sustain that moving forward. But also, we've been co-presenting not only here on this, right, on this call today, but in a few conferences now, right? And so we're really able to learn with one another, share and kind of bounce our ideas off as we present this information from our project. So again, really trying to build this, not only the capacity of each other, to be able to engage in this type of project, but that trust. And then lastly, our playbook, it's in progress. And we're really trying to create something that is not only meaningful to the community, but is, actionable, and that individuals can use if they want to engage in community research themselves. I will say that the audience of our playbook, as discussed and agreed upon on the project team, is CHWs, or these community individuals. We felt that was missing when we did kind of a broader look into what was available today from other organizations. I'm going to pass it to my partner, Juan, now.
Hi, my name is Juan Gallegos. I'm a community health worker. I'm also a student at San Diego State University with a background in community organizing. So first and foremost, I just want to go back to the previous presentation with regards to the uh, Community Advisory Board, Promotores Advisory Board. Central to this is the fact that San Diego County is a very diverse community, and our promotores, our community advisory board, is structured in a way that through the San Diego Promotores Coalition, we have the North, the South, the East, and the Central providing capacity building support and listening and working with other community health workers on the ground with each respective community, which is very diverse from the north to the south to the east and to central metropolitan area. And that is a strength that we bring to the table with regards to what we are harnessing and putting together. With regards to bringing that knowledge with the team here, lessons learned with our immersive engagement. We have slowly been building our team. In the beginning, there is a process of establishing an actual 501c3 within the coalition that is gelling. It's been around for about 20 years, but now it's at the point where, okay, let's do an actual 501c3. With regards to the community-centered approach, this has been something that through the promotores, we've been engaging. And one of the things by me going back to school, being taught the culture-centered approach, and then identifying the community-based participatory research aspect and how it formalizes, and in a way it's a hybrid of both theories to actually engage and co-create with our lived experience and put that on the table. With regards to representation and sustainability, the breadth of this has been very deep within the community, and lessons learned are floating. And as a result of this, while going through this whole entire process for the last year, I think there is new initiatives coming out of this and a potential ability to replicate this either throughout California or nationally or throughout the Southwest. Next page. Can you change it, Mateo?
Sorry, I'm trying right now. I don't know what's
Okay.
freezing on me. There we go.
Okay, thank you. So with all this being said, with regards to all of the materials that we have put together, the lessons learned, the co-creation throughout the region, I personally have also participated with the program that Voice has started. And through this process of capacity building for the community, it seemed as it was advancing parallel to what we were doing with the playbook, it came to my mind that, or our minds, that, you know what, why don't we start fusing this into a core cadre of community health workers that particularly focus on working with academia and the community working with academia. It's bi-directional, where we're teaching the community how to work with UCSD, and UCSD researchers how to work with the community, and establishing a long pattern of, we're here for you, we're going to be working with you, and this is something that we need to establish as a foundation to be able to work for the next 20 years, with regards to having that commitment and relationship building, and most important, building capacity with our community health workers, and working on the co-creation of initiatives, that need to happen.
Thank you. Amazing. And I hope folks are going to be able to learn more about it in the breakout rooms. I'm so sorry to be like playing the
No,
walk-off music, like at the Oscars, basically, putting myself in. Gonna ask all the other speakers. Thank you both so much, Mateo and Juan. Gonna ask all the other speakers to come back on video, and we're gonna do a rapid fire couple Q&A questions, but really hoping that that those questions and discussion can continue in the breakout rooms. So we're gonna put everyone back on video, and Danielle, I'm gonna pass it over to you.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in today. We are going to be keeping this party going momentarily in some breakout rooms where you're going to have a chance to engage more deeply around three different areas of community engaged research. So some of these great questions that you put in the chat, I think, are going to be fantastic to talk about in those breakout rooms. But before we go to those breakout rooms, I did want to lift up one question here in the chat. We were so lucky to have Isabel Cuervo join us today from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, who we have been working with closely over many years, and who behind the scenes, has really been making this work go. And and Isabel notes, would love to hear from each of the teams. In your experience, what needs to be funded at a higher level? What do you need funding wise? And also, funding aside, what supports do you need that aren't funding? So let me just open it up for a couple minutes before we go to the breakout rooms for you to tell us what you need, funding or otherwise, to keep this good work going and take it to the next level.
I can
Can
jump.
anyone go?
Go ahead, Ebony.
Oh, so obviously you are correct, Danielle. Funding is always needed. But what we do realize is that relationships are the most important thing. And so being consistent was key. Um, what we would like to do is, in a perfect world, be able to offer more resources, finding more resources, being able to compensate more for each individual's time, but even having the opportunities to get out and do more research within the community. Because yes, we are compiled of 16 members, but there are so many more people who could be involved. And sometimes you're in a point of like, okay, you don't want to have too many people, but then you want to get as much engagement as possible. But this is definitely needed to push the envelope, to know that how this creates new policies. So this is so important.
I just wanted to quickly echo what Yuri said earlier, right? I think a unique thing about this effort was that it funded the infrastructure, right? The development of these partnerships, which typically isn't funded, right? Like sometimes the research itself, the project is funded, but not the very beginning, right? How do you establish these long-term relationships? Take the time to build that trust with these individuals, with these organizations, again, that have been doing this for decades already, right? But academic, is finally catching on and really able to say, okay, there they are. They're right here in our own community. How can we work together? So I think additional funding would be great. I think what you provided was super. We're very grateful for it, and I think yeah. In addition to
Oh,
additional funding, I like the additional time, just because these partnerships take time just to get up and running, right? And then once you're up and running, a little bit more is appreciated, But I'll stop there. Thank you.
If I may add to that, as a result of this, we have actually identified who's already mod uh, uh, worker and cadre of community health workers to do this is an amazing opportunity where we can just start building them to do and work on initiatives such as what everybody spoke on this panel about. Second to that is God, the thought just blew my mind. Uh, I'll stop there.
And if I can add something, first and foremost, sorry for disappearing into the ether. My power just decided not to cooperate with me. But I think that also just recognizing that community-based organizations don't always have the staff to administer grants. And I think that support for the disbursement of funding is vital to make sure that these projects can, come to life.
Fabulous. Thank you all so much. There's never enough time, but the good news is that for those brave individuals here who are willing to stay and engage, we are going to be moving to give you an option of 3 electronic passageways to continue the conversation. So what you see on your screen are 3 breakout rooms, forming partnerships, fostering active co-creation spaces, and dissemination and sustainability. And in the webinar chat, you're going to see those links that should be clickable. And so for anyone able to stay, and please do feel welcome to join any one of the rooms that's speaking to you, where you'd like to ask questions, and connect with other individuals who are doing this work alongside you. With that, I hope to see some of you in the room that I'm about to join. And I want to thank all of our presenters, all of our grantee teams, as well as our advisors for all their partnership in this work. We have learned so much from you. We are so grateful for all the work that you've continued to do, and we can't wait to see where you continue to take it in these months and years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.